Еще раз здравствуйте всем. Как вы знаете, сегодня у вас будет встреча с профессором Давиде Пармиджане, который является профессором университета Генуи и, как я уже сказала, является президентом ассоциации учителей в Европе. Он вам расскажет о межкультурном стиле, что делает наш университет по поводу межкультурного образования и расскажет еще об ассоциации учителей в Европе. После выступления профессора Давида Пармиджани у вас будет встреча с нашим проректором по качеству, с которой вы встретились и вчера, профессор Микеле Росси, который вам расскажет о университете инклюзия и образования или преподавания для учителей, для профессоров. Dаю слово профессору Parmigiani. Professore, l'ho introdotto, le ho detto che è professore dell'Università di Genova e presidente dell'ATE, quindi che oggi parlerà sia del ruolo dell'Università per l'educazione interculturale e poi parlerà anche delle ATE. Dаю слово профессору Parmigiani. The floor is to Professor Parmigiani.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy and honored to meet you. And I'm sorry, I don't remember, or anyway, I couldn't understand in which university are you working, or if there are many universities from Ukraine, or you are working on only in one university. Can you tell me, please?
We work in different universities. Mostly, maybe not mostly, even it's National Pedagogical Dragomanov University, National University of Life and Environmental Sciences of Ukraine. Lena, please, and Pani Olena, can you tell about your universities?
I'm from Sumy National Agrarian University, the north east part of Ukraine. Pani Elena.
I'm from the Institute of Higher Education, which is a kind of research center for higher research think tank for higher education.
And all of us were teams of two Jean Monnet projects. First of all, Jean Monnet Project EVDISD, EU Values of Diversity and Inclusion for Sustainable Development. And mostly all of us also team of Jean Monnet Chair, Social and Cultural Aspects of European Studies. I'm Maria Nesterova, I'm academic coordinator of both of these projects, and previous one, Jean Monnet module, SCAES, Social Cohesion and Education and Governance, European Studies, and our scientific and academician interests started from social cohesion problem. Thanks to Olena Orgel, at the moment she was not only a national coordinator of Jean Monnet program in our national Erasmus Plus office in Ukraine. She also habilitated Doctor of Science in the sphere of public administration, and her brilliant monograph, Social Cohesion, about social cohesion, it inspired me, and we started Jean Monnet module. We've hopefully successfully finished this module, and then we dipped into the problem of intercultural communication, trust, EU values, and so we applied for new Jean Monnet projects. You can see us, it was successful. And we asked, Diana is our the most strong, reliable, and wise partner and patient partner during our international communication. I told Michaela about our unsuccessful attempts to apply for capacity building Erasmus Plus projects. They were concerned values and value-based management and intercultural communication. So it's our main key issue of our investigations, research, and it joined us.
Perfect. Thank you very much for explaining me. And so just to know something about you. And I think that today, I think to arrange these 2 hours, our meeting, split in 4 moments of more or less 20-25 minutes each, just to have the possibility to focus on different topics. And in particular, I would like to present the international / intercultural activities carried out in our university. I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes written in my book. Just a second. Then the second moment would be focused on how to use digital technologies, to increase the possibility to include all pupils and all students. So the name of this second slot will be e-inclusion, which means, of course, electronic inclusion. And then another slot linked to the inclusive education in Italy. And then the role of the Association for Teacher Education in Europe for improving the networks, the international networks, international studies. And so of course, you are totally free to interrupt me if you want to discuss, to ask for something. Anyway, we are of course colleagues. And if you want to focus a specific topic or a specific part, no worries, please take the floors autonomously and tell me whatever you think about my idea. So the first, and I share my screen just to, and in order to do what I was saying, I think it's better to show you some of my interventions and speeches in international conferences to show not just a description of a course, of a subject, but just on how to carry out research on that topic. Mm-hmm. So the first one is related to the Erasmus Teacher Academy, and this is a short speech that I presented during the launch event of the Erasmus Plus Teacher Academies, which is the last action included in the call of the Erasmus Plus. Unfortunately, this call is reserved only for EU countries. Mm-hmm. So personally, I disagree with this decision, but it's clearly indicated into the call for Erasmus Plus. And if you go to the chapter dedicated to the Erasmus Teacher Academies, only EU partners, only institutions located in EU member states can be partner in this particular call. But I would like to present you these slides because I underlined the importance of a wonderful ring. I tried to show how the international...
Я перепрошую, я вже...
I'm sorry, there is anyone with the... Perfect, thank you very much. And how international experiences for student teachers can improve their professionality. So I would like to start with this point because I strongly believe in the international and intercultural exchanges. And unfortunately, as everybody knows, in this moment we cannot carry out any international exchanges in person, but of course we all hope that from the next year we will be able to start again with the international experiences. So first of all, I would like to start with an historical perspective, because I think that it's always important to understand where and when the idea of an international exchange started. And in particular, you can see this famous document named Authentica Habita, also known as Privilegium Scholasticum, issued, as you can see, in 1158. And this was a grant issued by the Emperor Frederick Barbarossa, Emperor of the Sacred Roman Empire, and this document allowed all students and all teachers to travel throughout the Roman Empire for purposes of study. So it was the first document that underlined the importance of international exchanges, on how it's important to share knowledges, skills, ideas. And if you can see, this document has been issued more or less 1000 years ago. So our idea of international and intercultural exchanges was born more or less 1000 years ago. And to me, it's particularly fascinating to have to think on how some of our colleagues 1000 years ago can start from their own country to go to another place and meet other colleagues, other scholars in particular or specific field. And if you agree, I think that it's the reason, the deep motivation of an international project is just for trying to create common basis to understand the reality, and in particular in our field to understand the educational reality. After, of course, after an historical perspective started 1000 years ago, we can come in a more recent years, but anyway, more or less 50 years ago, as you can see from the quotation. Taylor in 1969 affirmed that whatever they teach, teachers should be educated in a way calculated to raise the level of their awareness of what is happening to mankind in the world's contemporary circumstances. What it means, this first sentence, that a teacher can probably spend the whole professional life in a country and maybe in a specific area of his or her country. But it's important to have a broad overview of the global impact of the teaching profession. So the question is to understand on how a teacher, or anyway an educator, can face the global challenges, even if in a local context. And probably it's clear for everyone that this situation, the virus situation, the pandemic situation, taught us that it's important to reason in a global way. And it's not enough to solve the situation just in one country, because the pandemic is a global issue and we must face it together. So in this sense, I think that since you have nominated the idea of sustainability, the sustainability, one of the first idea of sustainability, educational sustainability, is to be aware of the global issues in the local context. And in particular, for teachers, it's important to mix these two ideas. Which could be the potential benefits of an international teaching experience? Because in this way, at this stage, I would like to focus my particular interest on the experience of teachers, and specifically for pre-service teachers. Of course, the international experiences are important also for in-service teachers, but I'm particularly focused on pre-service. The first benefit of an international teaching experience can be called global cross-cultural perspectives. So the idea is to support the professional growth of pre-service teachers in developing an idea of teaching in a cross-cultural perspective. Why? Because the pre-service teachers spending a period abroad in a school abroad. So for instance, I don't know, an Ukrainian pre-service teachers can spend maybe 2 weeks, 1 month in an Italian school, primary or secondary, that's not the matter, and can understand the idea, this school vision. So what's the idea of school in the hosting country? In what way can be connected with our idea, with my personal idea, with my national idea of schooling? And that's important to create new ideas of schoolings, mixing the diverse perspectives that, of course, raising from different historical, cultural, political perspectives. So the first benefit is that the future teachers can think in an international, intercultural way. What it means, this first quotation? We must avoid that the teacher can think that the idea of school is only one, and maybe the idea of the country where he or she is born. I think that the risk of this perspective is to have a kind of provincial idea, parochial idea of schooling. So an Italian teacher can say, okay, but the school, the Italian school, is the only one in the world. Probably also the other schools can be arranged like the Italian schools. Instead, and personally, my personal experiences in arranging the Erasmus exchanges for students, and in particular for student teachers, is that way they come back to Italy after the international experience, they change their school vision and they are able to modify the Italian way of teaching, to add, to criticize, to modify some parts. For instance, the student teachers, some student teachers can have the possibility to spend a semester or just 2 weeks or 1 month, maybe in Norway, in Finland, in the Netherlands, in Sweden, in Denmark. And even if these are all countries of the European Union, I can assure you that the idea of schooling is quite different. So I clearly remember when student teachers come back after an experience in Finland, and she, because she was a female, of course, she spent a period of placement in a class, in a science classroom, where the teacher with the pupils had to build an electric bike. So the idea of the curriculum in science education in Finland was to create an object, a bike, an electric bike, to be sustainable for the environment. Instead, in Italy, the idea of science education is more classical, so is more based on the concepts, on the knowledge, on the information. So at the end, the Italian pupils in science education can have many information, but probably they don't know what they could do with this information. Instead, the Finnish pupils have few information, or at least less information compared to the Italian context, but they are able to create something. Of course, this difference is due to the different historical perspective of these two countries. The Finnish way of education is very pragmatic. Instead, the Italian way of education is typical and classical, so comes from the Greek and the Latin culture. I'm not saying that one idea is better and the other idea is worse. No, absolutely not. The important thing is that the Italian student teachers who had this experience come back to Italy saying, probably it would be better to make our learning environments more practical, maintaining our perspective, our classical perspective, but changing something. This is an example to say, to see the learning environment in an international and intercultural way. The student teacher can have the possibility to see the school with different eyes. And the second quotation explains clearly this situation. Pre- and in-service teachers can create a repository of successful strategies for learning and enhance their connection to a global learning community. So this sense is that maybe I had the opportunity to observe a teacher carrying out a strategy that usually is not used in my country. For instance, in Denmark, it's quite normal to put in practice the outdoor learning. So teaching strategies located maybe in outdoor near the sea, or maybe in a wood or wherever. Instead, in Italy, it's quite unusual, this situation. And it's very nice when an Italian student teacher experience this situation, fall completely in love with this new possibility. So to have an open school. And the third quotation by Sieberg and Meinecke said, it's important to connect global education with cross-cultural competence, allowing trainee teachers to transmit global learning to their future students. So that's a second aspect. The first aspect is to educate pre-service teachers to deal with the global issues. But at the second stage, it's important that the future teachers should be able to transmit this idea to their own pupils, to be active, engaged with the world. That's the final quotation for explaining the importance of I was talking too much, so it's better to go ahead. The second potential benefit of an international teaching experience is represented by new pedagogical and inclusive visions. And in this way, I can state that you have already had the possibility to discuss with other Italian colleagues the Italian way of inclusion, and personally, I don't know at all. So if anybody would like to say something, because I don't know the idea of inclusive education in Ukraine. So please, if you want to share with me, I would be totally happy. I think that the Italian way is particularly demanding, because you know that our way is to integrate all pupils with whatever kind of disability or specific learning difficulties. All pupils have to be integrated in the classroom, in the how it's normal to say, in the regular classroom. Okay, I was putting my timer to indicate how long I was talking, and instead, in other countries, it's quite normal to have spatial school or spatial classrooms, and it's absolutely interesting to compare the different perspectives. And in the Nordic country, for instance, that are very, very effective in some ways of schooling, instead, for inclusive education, it's not so usual to integrate all pupils in the regular classroom. So it's absolutely important for pre-service teachers to understand in what way the inclusive vision is thought in the hosting country, and to compare it with the Italian, with their original idea of inclusion, and debate and discuss with the colleagues in order to create new vision. So the idea of this new pedagogical vision is to have new world visions, so that they will have a wealth of knowledge and experience that causes them to see the world differently. So the idea, the deep idea, is to create the opportunities to reading more critically the educational ideas, the educational beliefs of the student teachers, and giving them the possibility to reconsider these ideas and creating something new. The last potential benefit of an international teacher experience is focused on the teacher's competencies. And as I mentioned before, during an international teaching experience, pre-service teachers can observe different learning contexts, diverse ideas on how to carry out and conduct lessons. So the pre-service teachers can develop new idea of teaching, and in particular, for instance, on how to use the cooperative learning, the service learning, the problem-based learning, and at the end, not only teaching approaches and teaching strategies, but also the linguistic competencies, which is an important aim, at least for Italian context, where it was not so usual to be able to express your own ideas in a different language. So it's important for pre-service teachers to be able to discuss, to think, and to share their ideas with the several linguistic backgrounds. Then, at the end of this first discussion, I think that the international teaching experiences can allow our teacher educators and the trainee teachers, or also in-service teachers, to develop their professionalities. In particular, the teacher educators can reflect deeply on their mentoring on their mentoring styles, and maybe to change something. In particular, on how to reflect on practices, because as you can imagine, during an international experience, student teachers continue to have a relationship with the original group in Italy, and during the meeting of the student teachers together with their teacher educators, can debate on how a classroom is managed in Italy and in the hosting country. So on how to manage the group work of the trainee teachers, and to develop, I strongly believe in the comparative education, in order to create a kind of interconnectedness between different and diverse institutions. And as I told before, the professional growth of trainee teachers is mainly focused on two aspects: the personal aspect, so a broad and overview and knowledge of a foreign education system and culture, and from a professional point of view, on how to reflect on professional skills and new instructional methods and approaches. So this was my I close my sharing, and yeah, I would like to open the discussion on this first suggestions. So I would like to know what are your ideas on this topic. So international/intercultural exchanges and professional development of pre-service teachers. So if you want to say something, please, the floor is yours.
I can start and my colleagues will continue. So what is happening in Ukrainian education, of teacher education and secondary education or school education in general? In 2017, the program, a rather broad reform was launched called New Ukrainian School. And this was really a significant transformation where the whole school system was realigned. And when we tried to move from school of knowledge to the school of competences. So the list of competences important for this 21st century citizens, Ukrainian citizens, was identified, and the whole school system was realigned. And accordingly, the teacher education of future teachers also has to be changed significantly. And what I know, we have now a Finnish project, the project which incorporates Finnish experience in teacher education is being implemented in 4 or 5 Ukrainian teacher training universities. So we are in this process of reform. I cannot speak of results or impact, but definitely there is the understanding that international experience is important and that change is important. And maybe my colleagues will add and give more details.
Thank you very much, Olena.
People are silent. I will say a few words about inclusion because you asked what is Ukrainian idea of inclusion.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big expert in inclusion, but this inclusive education was launched together with the reform of New Ukrainian School. And now, before the idea was that there should be special or specialized schools for children with special educational needs. And now the idea is, like in Italy, that children should be educated together, children with different needs. And again, there is understanding that a lot needs to be done, that we are only at the beginning of this big route to inclusive education, and that's why this project was launched and supported by the European Union, because there is understanding that we need to change a lot of things in order to get to real inclusive education. But at least there is the understanding among educators that the changes are necessary, that international experience is important, and the more we learn from our partners in Europe, the better for us. Unfortunately, schools, Ukrainian schools, not universities, but schools, are not very active in exchange programs. So this is the area which needs to be somehow enhanced, so the teachers would travel, as you described, and see what other teachers are doing. This is really important. Thank you for this hint how we should act in this area.
And Anna Fuzova, in our team, I mean Jean Monnet Project team, this is, as I thought, this is interdisciplinary project, but not between universities, but between faculties of our National Pedagogical Dragomanov University. Unfortunately, Maria Sheremet, she is the Dean of the Faculty of Special and Inclusive Education. Unfortunately, she couldn't switch on right now. She will She will see our meeting in the record, but Vice Dean of this faculty, Hanna Fuzova, she can explain you, because we've got our own good specialist about in the sphere of inclusive education. She can explain you what is the situation in Ukraine in a few words. But Diana, are you still here? Could you translate, please, probably from Russian to Italian? Otherwise, I had to, or somebody had to translate from Russian to English. Diana, if you are still here, could you please help? But Anna will say...
Yes, okay, I'm here.
Да, Анна, пожалуйста.
Большое спасибо, Мария, за то, что вы представили наш факультет, декана и меня. Действительно, факультет занимается проблемами инклюзивного образования и специального образования в том числе. Наша позиция такова, что инклюзивное образование невозможно без специальных знаний об особенностях развития детей с особыми образовательными потребностями.
Diceva che per le politiche di educazione inclusiva non è possibile senza sapere le necessità dello studente, cioè di cosa ha bisogno lo studente per un'educazione inclusiva.
К нам обращаются практики, которые внедряют инклюзивное образование и в школах, и в дошкольных учреждениях. Им, как правило, не хватает именно специальных знаний, как эффективно наладить взаимодействие с этими детьми. Какие приемы нужно использовать для того, чтобы они лучше адаптировались в образовательной среде и имели те же права и возможности, как и дети без нарушений развития.
Ed spesso quelli che vengono a fare pratica, no, il tirocinio da loro, sono persone che mancano di competenze specifiche nel sapere su come lavorare con i bambini, con i bisogni speciali, no? Quali competenze, come rapportarsi, come comunicare con loro affinché creare un ambiente inclusivo anche per loro.
Действительно, в условиях новой украинской школы прописаны позиции инклюзивного образования, ценности инклюзивного образования. Но вне внимания остались дошкольные учреждения, садики. И в дальнейшем мало кто понимает, как внедрить инклюзивное образование в среднюю школу, в старшую школу и в специальное профессиональное образование, специализированное профессиональное образование в дальнейшем.
Вне внимания, да?
Да.
Sì che ci sono delle linee guida, però non sono state prese in considerazione gli asili, cioè in senso i bambini di età prescolare, non sono state prese in considerazione le scuole medie, le scuole secondarie di secondo grado e la formazione professionale. Non sono stati presi in considerazione.
Родители детей с особыми образовательными потребностями чаще всего обращаются с вопросами, что будет после того, как ребенок закончит школу, как ему адаптироваться во взрослой жизни, где ему получить профессию, какие условия государство может обеспечить для того, чтобы ребенок не только получил профессию, но и реализовался с этой профессией в обществе.
I genitori si chiedono sempre cosa accadrà alla vita del loro figlio dopo la scuola, come potrà realizzarsi, ottenere una professione, realizzarsi tramite la professione, cioè avere una vita dignitosa dopo la scuola.
Украина на законодательном уровне пытается привлечь стейкхолдеров к трудоустройству детей, уже юношей, девушек с особыми образовательными потребностями, с инвалидностью на рабочие места и даже предлагает определенные преференции в налогообложении и тому подобное. Но не все работодатели готовы обеспечить надлежащие условия, например, сопровождения, да, менторства, тьюторства таких работников на их рабочих местах.
Il Ministero di sicuro sta provando a coinvolgere i stakeholders, no? I datori di lavoro, affinché anche tramite diciamo così, pagano le tasse meno, no? Per coinvolgere le persone con dei portatori di handicap. Ma non tutti i datori di lavoro sono interessati a avere, sia fare da mentore che da tutoraggio per i portatori di handicap, quindi è quasi impossibile.
И самая главная проблема, которая на сегодня остро стоит в Украине, это инклюзия детей, подростков и юношей с глубокими нарушениями развития, поскольку сейчас происходит реформация системы здравоохранения, закрываются психоневрологические интернаты, и эти люди, как правило, оказываются в лучшем случае в семье, в худшем случае они вне внимания общества в целом, кроме благотворительных организаций, организаций общественной инициативы и тому подобное.
Adesso stanno chiudendo anche le scuole speciali che prendevano i bambini con disturbi psicologici e neurologici. Si prospettano con la chiusura di queste scuole speciali, si prospettano due diciamo, vie di uscita. La migliore è che questi bambini finiscono in famiglia e che qualcuno si occupa, comunque abbiano famiglia che si occupino di loro. La seconda opzione è che cioè, finiscono in famiglia ma non sono presi in considerazione, sono esclusi totalmente, se no qualche associazione di beneficenza che si occupi di loro e basta.
И очень активно на сегодня звучат идеи поддерживающего проживания. Поэтому опыт европейских коллег нам очень важен для того, чтобы понимать, какую альтернативу мы можем предоставить детям, которые не могут в полной мере на сегодня реализовать себя в социуме, потому что социум не готов в первую очередь помочь им в этом.
E ovviamente l'esperienza dei nostri colleghi europei ci è molto importante e utile in questo, perché dobbiamo sapere come fare affinché la società sia pronta ad accogliere le persone portatori di handicap.
Grazie.
Grazie. Thank you very much for your insights and information about the Ukrainian way of inclusion. You all raised very important issues concerning the inclusion, the inclusive education, and just for giving you an example, 2 years ago I spent 1 month in Tel Aviv for having just a discussion and sharing the idea of inclusion between Israeli way of inclusion and Italian way of inclusion. And in Israel is from a formal point of view, all pupils with whatever kind of disability can have the possibility to be integrated into the regular classrooms, but there are still the special schools and very interesting special schools with the high level of educational offer for pupils with disabilities, and also in particular for pupils with severe disabilities. And the parents are always in trouble in designing the right way, because in theory they can include their own children in the regular classes, but on the other hand, the best services for pupils with disabilities are still located in the special schools and classrooms. So in practical, there are few pupils with disability in the regular classrooms. So this was just an example to discuss the main idea. the Italian perspective of inclusion is that since starting from the early 70s of the last century, of course, the national laws declared the importance of integrating all pupils. So the school system had the time to reform the organization of the schools for welcoming pupils with disabilities, or anyway with pupils with special needs in general. So in this way, we can say that now we have a good level of integration, of course, with some limitation, as you can imagine, because it's quite normal. Instead, in other countries, also in high income countries, so I'm not referring to some situation of low income countries where the difficulties is mainly economical, but the question is cultural. So what's the best way to integrate in a long period a pupil with disability and special need? The Italian idea is it's better to start from the beginning, so from the kindergarten, because it's more probably that in the future these pupils have the possibility to be integrated also in the society, not only in the school. Of course, as the colleague mentioned before, another important problem is the welfare offers for integrating in the labor market, for instance. Not the pupils becoming adult, where they will be able to work, where they will be able to offer their activities for the society. So the question is at the same time educational and of course economical, because it's always important to combine these two situations. Because for instance, in Denmark, which is a high income country, of course, they offer a lot of possibilities for pupils with disabilities, but in special schools, because their cultural idea is to keep separated, but not because I kindly ask you, and I try not to be misunderstood, not because they are racist with pupils with disability, but because they think that that's the best way for them, and they have many economical possibilities. It's true that, and it's correct from a scientific and also from an organizational point of view, to underline that a complete integration of pupils in the educational system is, on the one hand, very expensive, because it's necessary to create, as you mentioned before, good professionals, well prepared to welcome these pupils in the regular classroom, first. And second one, it's important to create good learning environments. So it's not just to the integration and the inclusion of pupils with special needs in the regular classroom. It's not just to, okay, I take these children, I put them in the regular classroom, and that's all. Of course, it's not enough, this situation. It's important to, on the one hand, educate the special education teachers, on the one hand, and on the other hand, to create new kinds of learning environments where the teaching strategies become inclusive. So the idea of learning environment should be inclusive, with all pupils, with or without special needs, because all pupils have some kind of special needs in a broader sense, of course. So all classes are composed of, are heterogeneous in whatever way. So it's important that the future teachers can reason, can make an idea of learning environment inclusive, in order to not just welcome, but to create the plural possibilities for all children. And as you can imagine, it's correct to say that this situation is more complicated. And I had many discussions with the Israeli colleagues, but just to try to understand what's the best way. Because on the one hand, someone can say, but if I offer a swimming pool built specifically for pupils with disability, what's the best way? To have a specific context for them, or to integrate in a normal, usual environment? That's the key question. And it's not easy to answer to this question, because I was born in 1966. I'm 54, and the first, thank you, and the first national law regarding the integration of pupils with disability was issued in 1977. So I was at the first year of lower secondary school, at middle school, just to let you understand. And I clearly remember that I met my first schoolmate with disability that year in 1977. I was a child, of course. I was a young pupil, and I was, I don't know, I was quite strange for me to see, but in what way we could educate. Of course, I couldn't use these terms when I was 11 in 1977, but I tried to understand on how we could integrate this pupil, maybe with a severe disability, in a regular classroom. My last baby, 5 years old, just in his classroom, yeah.
Said don't say last. Don't say last.
No, but I hope last, because it's the fifth one. So I think he's the last.
I also got 5 kids.
And yeah, I was saying that my last baby is absolutely used to see pupils and schoolmates with disabilities, and they have in their classes of the kindergarten a young pupil, a young child with a severe disability, and my child Jacopo, his name is Jacopo, is absolutely used to helping to integrate him and include him in the regular activities, starting from a specific chair, of course, of this child. And it's particularly interesting on how to compare my first reaction when I saw my first schoolmate with disability in my classroom, and I was quite upset. Instead, my last baby is absolutely normal from a cultural point of view. Please, Maria.
Thank you, David. It's very interesting. So my question is, can you compare the level of aggression? It's normal. It's normal. It's evolutionary mechanism. Aggression inside communities, educational communities. We call it bullying. school bullying or bullying in kindergarten. So can you compare, are there any investigations on this matter when this inclusion policy changes to better, I mean changes to inclusion, kids with disabilities? Because in Ukraine, the situation with bullying is very difficult. It's a huge problem. We can explain it by various reasons, social, political crisis, and other reasons. But what's the situation in Italy? Can you confirm that this inclusive educational environment decrease the level of natural biological aggression to reject others with any specific features? You know that in classroom, higher, taller or with another color of hair or with specific with nose or something difficult. It's normally it's the object, unfortunately, object of youth aggression.
Thank you, Maria, for this question. And unfortunately, I've never carried out any particular study about this topic. I can say that since we started many years ago in including pupils with disability, my impression, but it's just an impression, is that the bullying actions are not directed in the Italian schools towards the pupils with disabilities. It's quite rare, but please take this idea just like an impression. Maybe if you're interested, I can put in touch with another with a research center located in Milano, where there are some colleagues who are studying the phenomenon of hating, the haters, and the bullying situation. So maybe they can state, and maybe they have collected some data about this question. But in general, it's not an issue because the bullying situation is more focused on the foreign students, which is instead a more recent situation for Italian schools, because whilst in France or in Germany or in the Netherlands or also in Spain, but in general in many European countries, there is an older history of migration. So it's it was normal, just starting from the 70s, for French classrooms to have many foreign pupils in the classrooms. Instead, in Italy, we had this phenomenon, the phenomenon of migration, more recently. I was a teacher, a primary teacher, from 1991 through 2001, when I passed to the university. And also in this situation, I clearly remember when in 1995, maybe, when I had my first 2 foreign pupils in 1995. So, as you can imagine, it's a very recent situation. Yes. And in that way, it's important. In fact, we are more focused on multicultural education, just because the inclusive intended like for pupil with special needs. And the last, I don't remember the precise year. Maybe I can try to check. Maybe maybe in 2012, but I'm not sure. I should check more precisely when the Italian legislation provided a special education need for pupils with diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds. So, as you can understand, this situation is more challenging for Italian teachers and for Italian teacher educators, of course, because we are less prepared compared to the pupils with disabilities. So I don't know if I answered correctly to your question, Maria, and but it could be interesting to compare these two situations. So if Diana agrees, since you are the boss, Diana, maybe you can have just a 10-minute break, if you agree.
Yes.
And then, so just to, so
Yes,
do you
okay,
agree?
we can have, yes, let's say
10 minutes.
10 minutes break.
Thanks,
Okay,
thanks,
so
David.
perfect. So see you in 10 minutes and with the second topic.
Okay, great.
See you later.
Mhm.
Доброго дня, ще чекаємо, так?
Hello, are you there?
We are here.
So in this second part, it's 10:30. I think 11:30 in Ukraine. But anyway, we have the last 30 minutes to discuss about some intercultural / international issues. And to start this second part, I would like to share with you some slides about the Association for Teacher Education in Europe, which is the organization that I'm honored to chair. And I would like to show you just a second. I'm sorry. Okay, see, you can see the website of the association, the ATE. It's very easy to remember, atee.education. And first of all, what are the aims of this association? You can find in the web page. The ATE aims to enhance the quality of teacher education in Europe through active dialogue and international exchange of research and practice in initial and in-service teacher education. This association was established in 1975, and I think that it represents a good opportunity to meet colleagues focused on teacher education issues, to create networks in order to set up research projects or international projects, and to have the possibility to combine different perspectives. So the first activities to be arranged by the Association for Teacher Education in Europe are the conferences. Of course, as you can imagine, last year and this year we cannot arrange any conference in person, but usually the association arrange 3 annual conferences. The spring conferences usually scheduled end of March, beginning of April. The winter conference usually held in February. The annual conference usually scheduled at the end of August, beginning of September. The annual conference is the biggest one, and it covers all aspects of teacher education. So this conference is usually attended by 400, 500 participants. Instead, the spring conference and the winter one are focused on 1 or 2 aspects of of teacher education. For instance, the spring conference of 2021 unfortunately has been moved to, just a second, no, it's, sorry, spring conference 21 Florence. Okay, this is the website of the spring conference that unfortunately, of course, was scheduled in May in Florence, but unfortunately it has been moved to the end of October, and again, unfortunately, it will be held just online. So we couldn't have the possibility to visit. Yeah, I told the same thing. But in this case, as you can see from the title of the conference, this conference is focused on social justice, media, and technology in teacher education. So there are mainly two topics: the social justice and the use of technology in teacher education. So, for instance, you are totally free to register to submit a paper for this conference. Instead, the winter conferences, the winter conference this year has been cancelled because it was absolutely impossible to arrange it. Instead, there is the annual conference. Just a second, sorry. Where is it? Okay, this is the website. The annual conference was scheduled in September last year, and it has been moved to this September, and it was hosted by the University of Warsaw, but also in this case it will be held just online. But if you want, you are free, of course, to present a paper and to meet, because during the annual conference I come back to the website of the association. You can take part of the R&D community, which means research and development communities. These groups are special interest groups focused on different topics of teacher education, for instance, method and theories in teacher education, science and mathematics, teaching modern languages, global education, digital technology and teacher education, entrepreneurship education, and so on. These groups represent the core of the association because some colleagues meet and focus their efforts in these particular topics. So, for instance, I'm a member of the RDC in Teacher Education and Digital Technology, and a member of Teacher Education and Global Education. And we will have some meetings in order to set up shared studies, joint researches, projects, and so on. So I think it could be a good opportunity to meet colleagues, debate, and I would like to emphasize that it's not mandatory to be a member to take part of these groups. Of course, we hope that you would like to join as a member of our association. I would like also to show you that this year there are many a rich calendar of online activities, and I can show you, where is it? I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the last calendar. So, for instance, in the 8th of June, there will be a webinar about teachers' continuing professional development. And there will be also a totally free conference on the 11th of June on how to carry out research in teacher education, managed together with EVDISD, which is the European Doctorate in Teacher Education. There are also, where is it? I'm sorry, there is also an interesting online one-day conference on how to teach foreign languages during this terrible period. So, as you can see, there are a lot of activities, and if you want, you can be kept updated. If you from the home page, you can scroll down and you can find our newsletter. If you subscribe, just putting your first name, your family name, and your email, and clicking on subscribe, you will be included in our newsletter. And I can show you the last newsletter sent some days ago. Just a second. Okay, this is the last newsletter, and here you can see all the activities, all the forthcoming activities of the association. So I think it could be a very good opportunity to create networks, because we have a lot of members, both individuals and institutional members. So if you are interested in joining, it's enough to click on become a member, and you will see the benefits, of course, of our association. And you can join as individual member, standard doctoral candidate and student, and as institutional member. So, for instance, through your department or your faculty or your university, depending. And you are totally free to select the option. So you're free to select this membership, even if you have more than 300 students, no worries. An important point of our situation, our association, is our journal. Our journal is named European Journal of Teacher Education, published by Taylor and Francis. This is a very well-known journal in the international area. It's located in the first 50 position of the journal, the International Journal on Education. And with the membership, you are free to read this journal, and also just a second, also for further journals. College Teaching, Journal of Curriculum Studies, Journal of Education for Teaching, Studying Teacher Education, and Teachers Teaching. So subscribing joining as a member, you will be able to read freely these journals. Also, you have discounts for the book series of ATE, and as a member, you have also the possibility to publish in this ATE book series. And of course, you will be able to attend our online activities totally free, free of charge. And at the end, the last benefit is that the members can have free language support. So it means that if you want to publish an article in English, and as I can imagine, you need a proofreading for being sure that your article is well written in a good English. 10 members can have every year the possibility to have this service completely free. So this was just to let you show the possibility of the Association for Teacher Education. But the main question is this association can give you the opportunity to meet many colleagues. And in addition to that, the Association for Teacher Education is a relevant stakeholder of the European Commission and the European Parliament, and I'm sure you know that about the education, European education area to be reached by 2025. This important document of the European Parliament and our association had the possibility to discuss with the CULT, which is the center of the European Parliament, about I don't remember the acronym, learning, culture, learning, and so on. I don't remember the precise terms included into this acronym. And the association had this opportunity to discuss with the members of the European Parliament, with the European Commission, discussing about the main points included into the European education area. So this was just to let you know this possibility. Of course, you are totally free. I was asked by Diana to present this association. It's not an advertising, of course, but it's the possibility to share with you the opportunities to create research studies with colleagues from all over the world, because it's not necessary to be located in an EU member state for becoming a member of the association, because we have members from all around the world, from Japan to Canada to United States, Australia, New Zealand, just to have a very broad network of colleagues and to debate and discuss educational issues. And just to share with you some insights about the second topic that I wanted to deal with you, I would like to present very briefly. Where is it? Okay. These slides about this research analyzing online teaching and learning activities for pupils with special educational needs and disabilities, a model of e-inclusion in Italy during the pandemic. These slides will be presented during the next conference, TEPE, Teacher Education Policy in Europe. And this study was published in Technology, Pedagogy and Education. You can see here the reference if you are interested in reading it. If you want, it's completely free, and I can put the link on the chat. Just a second. You can see here the pandemic, and so it's very easy to download it. I repeat, it's totally free. I put the link in the chat, so if you want. And this research has been carried out during the first lockdown, the hardest lockdown, and it was a qualitative study aimed at identifying the factors that affect the online inclusion. So in that particular situation, which were the strategies used by the Italian teachers to be faced and to continue to have an interaction and a relationship with the pupils with special educational needs. So as everybody experienced, unfortunately, we had a hard period where the learner, and in particular the learner with special educational needs, were totally isolated. I clearly remember, you know, that Italy had the first lockdown, strict lockdown, from the beginning of March 2021, precisely from the end of February 2021 till the end of May. So all teachers had to recreate new ideas of learning environments, and in particular, new idea on how to involve and to integrate and include pupils with special educational needs. So this was the structure, and this was the research questions. What were the factors that affected the effectiveness of inclusion? So the main question was, which could be the right teaching strategies, the right organization to implement the inclusion online during a totally isolated conditions. I can imagine, you know, that this kind of studies, so the online inclusion, was studied only for the isolation of particular pupils, maybe hospitalized or with particularly severe disabilities. So maybe some pupils have to stay at home depending on their disability. In that case, the isolation is for the pupils with disability, but the schools and the classes are open. So in the past, the situation was this one. In particular, we studied the strategies, the classroom management of inclusive classes online, the relationship with the families, and the collaboration between class and special education teachers. And this is an important question related to the previous discussion about the Italian way of inclusion and the creation of a good and deep cooperation between regular teacher and special education teachers. And the preparation of teachers in dealing with this new situation. We involved 785 teachers located in our region. As you can see the distribution of the class teacher, special education teacher, divided and split into the 4 levels: kindergarten, primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary. There is a mistake. Okay, the questionnaire, the coding process. We are all researchers, so I don't waste the time in explaining you the coding process. This is the most important finding. This is the map of e-inclusion, the online inclusion. And in particular, we wanted to emphasize 4 main categories. Relationships with families, technologies, so the hardware, the teacher collaboration, and how to teach. So the first area, technologies, is the basic one, because the subcategories, equipment availability, level of technical competence, and the instruments and materials. Of course, you can imagine if a family with a pupil with a disability doesn't have any computer, any digital device, it was very, very difficult to arrange any kind of online activity. And in addition to that, also the level of connectivity. There is some areas of our country that there is a low possibilities for having a good connectivity. So some families didn't have any possibility to have an online lecture, an online meeting like this one, because they didn't have they had only maybe a connection with their smartphone, and their level of connectivity was absolutely low, and it's possible to have a good connection. In addition to that, there were also some level of technical competencies. So many parents weren't able to use the applications for having a good interaction with special education teachers and teachers with their pupils. And in the end, for technologies area, for technologies category, the instruments and the materials, the teachers had to create personalized materials for special needs typologies. And this was particularly important because the most of materials were suitable for in-person activities because were based on the paper, on book, and it was impossible to carry out any activities without good materials. So in this sense, I explained you this slide because some families have just one smartphone. This in yellow you can find some sentences written by the teachers involved in the study. The other category was the relationship with families. So fortunately, 2/3 of families have collaborated in many ways with teachers, but more or less 1/3 of families did not collaborate. And in that case, it was particularly difficult in involving the pupils with special education needs because they did not have any possibility to connect with teachers. So in general, 1/3 of pupils disappeared during the lockdown. And here you can see also, as we mentioned before with the colleague, more or less one family out of 10 had pupils with social and economic disadvantages and also linguistic, and in particular with pupils, with foreign pupils who had parents who are not able to speak Italian. So it was particularly difficult to involve them. The teacher collaboration, fortunately, has been quite high because, as you can see, the 71% of teachers experienced a good level of collaboration among teachers, in particular at kindergarten and primary level. There were some difficulties in the upper secondary level for some teachers who didn't collaborate with the special education teacher. This phenomenon is known as push-out phenomenon. So when the class teacher doesn't want to cooperate with the special education teacher. The last slide is focused on the teaching strategies. So the main strategies were interactive and cooperative, both asynchronous and synchronous, depending of course on the different kind of disabilities and special learning difficulties. At the end of the day, this is the idea of the online inclusion, starting from personalized asynchronous activities. There were some activities synchronous with the whole class, then in a small group, and then individual activities. This path is important because the pupils with special education needs need to be well integrated and feel part of a group. So it was important to have some moments with the whole class, then with some small groups with the schoolmates with a tutoring role, and then some individual activities with the tutoring of family and the tutoring of teachers. So this was just another another insight for discussing and debating about the way for inclusion, in particular inclusion through digital technologies. It's just 11 o'clock in Italy, 12 o'clock for Ukrainian time, and you will have another meeting, I think, with Michaela Rossi. So I think it's better to, if Diana agrees, of course, to stop my intervention. I would like to say thank you to all colleagues because it was very interesting to meet you. And I hope maybe in further occasions to meet you in person, not only on a screen.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Parmigiani. It was really, really an interesting presentation, I think. So we enjoyed so much. The floor to Ukrainian partners.
So thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day and whatever is better for you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Was really interesting. I hope useful for you. And now we have Michaela Rossi. So I give the floor to the Professor Michaela Rossi.
Hi, hello everybody. Nice to meet you again. How are you today? Fine. Would you have a break, 5 minutes break between, ok, maybe. Ok. Diana, magari 5 minuti di pausa. Vedo che il collega ha appena finito.
Ok, you're tired.
Dimmi tu. Ok, d'accordo.
Okay. So 5 minutes of break. Ok.
Io resto, però magari loro si riposano un attimo.
Sì, anch'io.
Esatto.
Molto ricca la presentazione di professor Parmigiani, molto, diciamo.
Sono giornate molto intense, mi sembra ho visto il programma, mi sembra che insomma abbiano...
Perché per dilungarle, no, nel tutto il giorno è meglio concentrati, anche perché per loro è il periodo di festa adesso, sono in vacanza.
Ah, d'accordo.
Perché domenica è stata la Pasqua ortodossa.
Ok, quindi poverini passano le vacanze. Cioè, perché stava
Vabbè,
però ho avuto un modo di
a volte
okay.
Ma diciamo che così almeno non sono impegnati con le lezioni.
Certo.
Ci siamo ritagliati sto spazio proprio tutto. Siamo partiti il martedì perché lunedì era ancora festa. Quindi.
Ok, cosa dici? Cominciamo? Sì. Io oggi ho aggiunto una parte, Diana, cioè posso aggiungere una parte rispetto a quella della formazione insegnanti che abbiamo fatto anche altre volte, quindi riprenderei quella, ma poi mi è sembrato di capire che avessero interesse anche per le attività di formazione dei docenti all'università. Quindi magari possiamo aggiungere qualcosa sul sistema di formazione in servizio che abbiamo qui? Ok, va bene, allora facciamo entrambe le cose così se hanno domande.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we can start. Мы можем начать. Все уже здесь? Никого еще нету. Кто здесь, откликнитесь, please. 5 минут уже прошло.
Я тут.
Но я никуда не уходил.
Да, мы вас видим.
Андрей самый стойкий среди нас.
Самое веселое в этой ситуации, что я сейчас нахожусь, и я параллельно работаю над законопроектом по экологизации, который сегодня должна озвучить народный депутат в парламенте, и вечером у нас будет политическое ток-шоу. Поэтому я какие-то вещи стараюсь слышать и думаю, так, это неплохо. То есть сама идея, что инклюзивность, мы не должны по инклюзивности засовывать условно студентов и учеников в отдельные заведения. То есть это же Советский Союз. Нам инклюзивность нужна для того, чтобы адаптировать текущие школы для их удобства. Думаю, хорошо, так мы же это можем засунуть в экологизацию. То есть как будет инклюзивность экология жить?
Sta scrivendo nel frattempo un progetto sull'ecologizzazione, chiamiamola così, sull'ecologia, però ecologia in senso non ambientale, ecologia proprio in senso largo della parola, e ascolta anche le lezioni e dice, ecco, questa idea è ottima perché l'inclusione poi comunque metterla anche nell'ecologizzazione, diciamo ecologizzazione, nell'ecologia perché vuol dire creare un ambiente ecologico anche per i bambini e per l'inclusione.
And so the thing that, how to say, I'm just inside of the conference, but in online mode, I try to implement this to the messages of the deputies in the parliament because it's a part of my work. And that's actually... how to say, that's actually a good impact because it will be, so we can talk much about what's happening, but what I do now, I don't have even idea that it will have the concrete impact in the legislative system of country. But that's happening.
This concept of ecology is very interesting. The concept of ecosystem too, I think it is quite linked to this. Okay, if you agree and if you're not too tired, maybe we can start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this morning two main topics. We will be talking about teachers training here in the University of Genoa, and I thought yesterday after our first meeting that maybe it could be useful for us to face two aspects of this question. The first one regarding the teachers training for secondary schools and the role of universities inside this kind of training, and the second one the teachers training at a university level. Some projects that we have here in Genoa that could be maybe interesting for you to see how we can train teachers and train our own teachers on some important topics, for example, educational innovation. So I'm going to share with you some main ideas. Maybe I'm going to share my screen, and I will start from teachers training at the school level, secondary school level. I will explain briefly the national system, and then I will focus on our own organization here at the University of Genoa. Okay, so I think you can see my my presentation now. Is that clear? Is that visible?
Yes.
Okay. So, shall we start from that? How about in general training courses for teachers at the University of Genoa? And when we talk about teachers in this in the first part of this presentation, we're talking about secondary school teachers. We have many projects here in Genoa as far as this training is concerned. You can you can see that we have different kind of courses, because here we have a long tradition as far as teachers training is concerned. In Italy, universities play a very important role in teachers training in the secondary schools and in primary schools too. So here in this slide, you can see that we have different projects to involve the secondary schools in teachers training. We have training courses for teachers. We have projects, joint projects with secondary school teachers, and we have meetings for secondary school teachers with universities, workshops in the schools, and so on. I will focus on one particular experience, but here you have a larger view of all the initiatives that we have here in Genoa since quite a long time now. And you have the website you can consult if you want some more details. I will focus on some projects in particular. The first one is that that kind of experience, which is called in Italy PCTO. That is a project that involves teachers in secondary schools, students in secondary schools and university for orientation workshops inside universities. This is a sector with careful work of co-designing. We co-design with the teachers the educational paths of secondary school students within the university. So students have an educational project which is co-designed with their own teachers in schools. Then they come to the university and they spend some months of workshops inside the university. Here you have some numbers, some statistics about the number of students that we have involved during the school year 2018 and 2019. And we involved 75 schools and nearly 1,000 projects. We organized also a university conference in 2019 to have a moment of methodological reflection, to share good practices, and to talk about this kind of experience. This is quite an interesting example of link between research and teachers training. Because the university can share experiences and knowledge with the students. This is very important at an orientation level, because living inside universities, students can better understand their own needs and their own educational path. And this allows universities to have a link with secondary school teachers and co-design with them educational paths for students. This has been for us a very enriching experience. This is also crucial to define which transversal competencies university can provide. And this has been for us an important step, because now in Italy, we're working a lot on transversal competencies and citizenship competencies. On what we could call with a very large level, the soft skills. We're working hard on soft skills, because academic tradition in Italy is mainly focused on disciplines. And so this is a great shift in mindset for us. So this reflection on transversal competencies has been carried out during the PCTO's experience, and also during some pilot projects within university, because since 2018 we have citizenship training courses here on different areas, different topics, such as sustainability, financial education, training for European citizenship. So all our students can attend this kind of courses independently from their area of specialization. And this has been a very interesting experience. We are trying to enhance this kind of transversal projects. By now we have some 10 courses or something more this year about citizenship training for all our students inside the university. Another important project or axis of action inside our action for teachers training is this kind of action, which is called in Italy PLS POT, which stands for Piano Lauree Scientifiche e Piani di Orientamento e Tutorato. And this kind of project goes on since has been going on for many years now, and it does not regard only the incoming orientation phase, but also this is also a testing ground for the consolidation of the common working table between school teachers and university professors and researchers. This is a project that involves in work groups teachers coming from the secondary schools and teachers coming from universities to define a framework about proficiency profiling and the definition of knowledge and skills that are expected in the transition between high school and university. So we have tables, work tables composed by university teachers and school teachers, and we try to define the point and the level of disciplinary skills and transversal skills which are required in the passage between secondary school and university. This has been very useful for us in order to work on our first year students and to prevent, for example, dropout. So we work on clear frame. We try and work on a clear framework which can be useful for professors, school professors, but also for students, which can be more aware of what the needs and what the attended skills are when they come to university after high school. Okay, how about then teachers' initial training as a national project? Okay, so the project that I presented to you first, so PCTO and PLS and POT are anyway national projects that are financed by our ministry, and they concern more the collaboration between the university level and the secondary school level at the teachers' general level. But universities in Italy are also charged of teachers' initial training. And this is another important point. So I can explain maybe now more in detail how this training is organized. When we talk about initial training, of course, we're talking about students having a master degree, and then the path that they have to do to become teachers in normally in secondary schools. For primary schools, you have maybe talked about that with our colleagues. There's another path, another form of training inside our first level degree. Okay. As far as the teachers' initial training is concerned, in Italy we have a long history of this kind of training, starting from this model that you can see in my slide. During the 90s, our government has decided the main norms and the main laws about teachers' initial training. And in a first phase, this training was organized on a 2-year training, which was called by this acronym SCAES, and which stands for Secondary School Initial Training. And this was organized on a 2 years path. So the students could access this kind of training after a master degree, normally, and that was organized on disciplinary skills and also on transversal skills, and it included training directly inside schools for 2 years. This was considered a very time-consuming and a very difficult path, very difficult choice. So after some years, the government decided to change this kind of initial training, and we passed to another model, which was called the TFA, which lasted only 1 year and compacted in a certain way the initial training delivered in 2 years in just 1 year of training. Universities were charged for courses, disciplinary courses, and there was also a phase of training inside schools. This was a very difficult phase because you can understand that compacting the same training that we delivered in 2 years' time inside just 1 year time was quite difficult and was not so successful. During the same years, so we had another kind of initial training called PASS, another model, which regarded mainly teachers that already had a teaching experience in schools. So they were compelled to have an initial training at an academic level, but without any training in schools. They had to have acquired 3 years experience in school, and then they could access this kind of initial training. Here again, for us, it was very time consuming. Normally, we deliver this kind of courses during the weekend, and this was very difficult to organize. In 2010, more or less, we accessed to another model again because. Okay. Do you have some questions? Okay. We had another change from the ministry, and there was another model which was called FIT, which should last 1 year and comprising academic training and also school training. But this kind of training was never realized, and in fact, some years ago, 4 years ago, we had the last change in our norms system as far as teachers' initial training is concerned, and we changed to another model again. This final model is called 24 CFU here in Italy, and it is based on the assumption that after a master degree, the students to become teachers must acquire 24 ECTS in some disciplinary sectors, some disciplinary well-defined domains. And then of course, they have to pass selection to become teachers in secondary schools. So the master degree and this 24 ECTS in psychology, pedagogy, anthropology, and didactics in a large sense. These 24 ECTS can be acquired during their master degree or after the master degree. At first, of course, they were acquired the first year, they were acquired normally basically after the master degree. But during the last years, our students have begun to acquire them during their master degree. So we have now a hybrid situation. Okay, here in Genoa, we have organized this kind of courses with our colleagues belonging to the disciplinary sectors involved. We began some years ago, and this is the website where you can find all the information about the teachers' initial training, which is delivered here in Genoa. The areas that are involved in this kind of courses that we organized in a parallel way, as far as our normal offer is concerned, are organized inside 4 areas. The first one is the pedagogical area, and here you have the objectives of this kind of training. So we deliver courses that are focused on knowledge and skills in relation to the basic elements of pedagogy, useful for the practice of teaching, with particular reference to the general intercultural and inclusion pedagogy. So some aspects that you have already talked about with my colleagues during all these days. So inside these courses, we deliver a specific training for students that want to become teachers. This means that we organize courses in addition to our general pedagogical offer. So first one is the pedagogical area. The second one is called the psychological area. This area is focused on knowledge and skills in relation of the basic elements of psychological functioning, the processes of development and adaptation of students, with particular attention to the psychological and affective processes involved in the school context, in the field of learning, education, orientation, and then also the knowledge and skills that are useful for growth processes through the enhancement of individual paths. And last but not least, psychological processes that influence the functioning of groups. So this is the second main area. So as you can see, there's a slight difference between psychological and pedagogical courses that we deliver normally and psychological and pedagogical courses that we deliver expressly for this kind of students. The third one is called the anthropological area. It's an area where we focus on knowledge and skills of anthropological and cultural nature. So related to scholastic organization, models of analysis of cultural institution and schooling in an international perspective. Knowledge and skills that are relating to reading and the analysis of phenomena of early school leaving, so early school dropout. And above all, knowledge and skills relating to migration processes, globalization, multiculturality in classes, and so on and so forth. So in this aspect too, there's a slight difference between normal courses and this kind of courses that are made and tailored on students that want to become teachers. The last area is a mixed area. That's to say that we call them area of teaching methodologies and technologies, and it involves different sectors, different disciplinary sectors and domains, mainly focused on knowledge and skills in relation to the basic elements of methodologies and technologies for the exercise of teaching profession. There are some references of specific disciplinary areas, but the main focus is on teaching methodologies and teaching technologies. And here, for example, we have some courses based on ICT that can be useful for teaching. This is the number of teachers that we have trained per year during the last 4 years. This year, this kind of project has not started yet. So you can see the first year, 3,000 people, on the second year, 2,000 people, and on the third year, 1,000 people. And this is natural because at the beginning, the system was completely new. So there were many students having a degree, but that did not possess this kind of ECTS. So a lot of graduated people attended our courses, and then, of course, during the following years, the number tended to a decrease. Okay. Lastly, we have another interesting project, which is a project that we have in Genoa. So a particular project that we have here for digital technologies competencies for teachers, that is called EPICT, and this is a project that aims at accompanying teachers to a full competence in pedagogical use of digital technologies. This is very important. This is a main asset for us here in Genoa, and we work on that also for university teachers training, combining digital technologies and methodological skills. Okay, so as you can see, we have many projects, and we have trained by now many thousands of teachers. Which are the risks of this kind of system, mainly the 24 ECTS system in Italy, and which could be the perspectives. So some considerations about how it works. I remember you that the system is based on a degree, a disciplinary, a specific degree, and then the acquisition of 24 ECTS in pedagogy, psychology, anthropology, or methodology in general. 24 ECTS is not so much, so we can maybe ask ourselves some questions about the effectiveness of this kind of model. Okay, so some good points and some weak points. Start by the good points and then go to the weak ones. A strong point in this kind of system is the enhancement of the importance of teaching skills of future teachers. In Italy, before this kind of project, we had a very discipline-bounded system, which was mainly based on disciplinary knowledge. And this kind of system, instead, it focuses on transversal skills and methodological skills. So this is quite a good point for this kind of system. The main problem is that this kind of training is still fundamentally delegated to university education, and this could be a risk if this kind of training is not co-designed with school teachers. This is a major problem because we tend to have a separation of the two sectors, and this could produce some problems in the initial training. The second good point is the enhancement of the link between research and teaching in a disciplinary field. And this is very important because for us, it could be useful to work on teachers training to, in a certain way, to convey the main points of our research inside the didactic action. And another good point, and I think this is a very important point, is the growing importance that is given to transversal competencies. Methodological ones, citizenship competencies, meta-reflection competencies linked to one's own teaching practice, and so on and so forth. You have talked about maybe about that with my colleague this morning, who is cited here, and this is a major point because we did not have a very sound reflection on metacognitive and meta-reflection competencies for teachers, and now we are working hard on this point, and also to enhance their methodological competencies, which are not necessarily linked to their disciplinary skills. Mm-hmm. So this is an important point on which we can come back later at the end of this presentation.
Michael, I'm sorry. David Parmigiani, yes?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. You just talked about that, yeah. I think, before with him.
Unfortunately, he didn't explain his this focus on transversal competencies. I can feel the resonance feeling with him, not only in the subject of 5 kids, because we both have got 5 children, okay. But we're also working on researching the problem of the development of transversal competencies. And if you know, could you please? Hopefully I will give a chance to ask David personally. But probably could you please stop for a while on this problem of transversal competencies, metacognitive competencies development. How do you do it practically? Is it possible in this training? We're all speaking about these competencies, transversal skills of 21st century. We worked, I wrote many articles on this, but to be honest, I'm not expert in this practical way of the development of these competencies. Could you please share your experience?
Okay. So maybe I could share my experience at an university point of view. From the for the school teachers, I know that our colleagues focused on these aspects during this kind of courses. I think that is important because these kind of courses are not academic normal courses. Mm-hmm. This is the main point, I think, that they are tailored on the secondary school teachers' needs. And this is quite a change for us because during the first period, the risk for these courses was that they were in a certain way prepared by an academic public. So they could diverge in a certain way from the real needs. So this is an important point. So I know that during this training, our colleagues focus on specific case studies, for example, and they talk about this kind of problems. We have started here in Genoa, and maybe this is my main experience. The main experience I could share. We have started here in Genoa to work on the same aspects with university teachers. Mm-hmm. And we have started some years ago, 5 years ago, a project on pedagogical and methodological skills for university teachers. And we have workshops and seminars, and we organize communities of practice of teachers as far as these particular aspects are concerned. So we have called people, for example, experts from all over the world to talk about transversal competencies, how to foster transversal competencies inside the university teacher training, which is not the same, but some issues are common, I think. And we work a lot on meta-reflection. We make questionnaires. We work on communities of practice that meet once a month to talk about this kind of issues and this kind of problems inside our practice. Mm-hmm. So, for example, tomorrow we will have a national meeting on how to evaluate pedagogical innovation inside universities, and which kind of indicators should we use, if quantitative indicators or better qualitative indicators based on metacognition, for example, or the self-efficacy feeling, and so on and so forth.
Oh, great. It's my pipe dream to measure and develop. In our project MAFCA, we tried to, in this Erasmus capacity building project, but I didn't quit off this idea. I'd like to apply again, because I believe that we can change our pedagogical education, our secondary teachers, secondary school education, starting from university teachers in higher pedagogical institutions. So we have to start from our own selves to develop our values and skills, competences, and only after that, when we'll be as a keeper of this new even personality, new personality, we can transfer this not only knowledge, but this complex of knowledge, skills, and our own habits and emotions to our students. And only after that, like a fire, the Olympic fire transferring, and only after that we can almost for sure we'll get the changes in our secondary education system.
I completely agree, because I think that this is a way to shape a mindset, not only at a disciplinary point of view, but this is a question of mindset, I think. It is very, I don't know in your country, but here it is very difficult to talk about a different way of university teaching. It is very difficult to produce a change in mindset for people. And it takes quite a long time, and maybe we start maybe now to see some results, some actions that have had some good effects. But I think that the questions are strictly and inevitably linked, because in any way the ministry gives to universities the task to train secondary school teachers. So this is a kind of imprinting, I think, that we can have.
Almost the same situation in Ukraine. We have to train our teachers from secondary schools. It's a general rule, and our reform, our educational reform in Ukraine, our ex-Ministry of Education, she is ex-secondary teacher, Lilia Grinevich, and she started our educational reform in Ukraine from secondary schools. New Ukrainian school, it's the main concept of this, but it's about, correct me please colleagues, 5 years, 6 or 5, maybe 7 years, this reform New Ukrainian school. But I'm communicating with many teachers because we're also involved in the project supported by Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, social cohesion development of subjects of educational space, and more than 160 schools among all Ukraine, and we are participating in at camps. It's big conferences, and I can check other initiatives in the sphere of secondary education, and most of them, I mean teachers, are disappointed because and upset because new teachers, new wave of educators. It's terrific situation because, for example, in the sphere of STEM education, natural sciences, physics, mathematics, in many pedagogical universities, they close these specialities because nobody wants to be a teacher. It's a huge problem. We can do something with present teachers, with working teachers, but without a new generation of teachers, future teachers, this reform will stop, as we can see with ex-Soviet educational systems. Our Soviet educational system was very good, I think. I believe it was strong, academician, moral and value oriented. But I can see this decreasing of level because all teachers are dying or quitting for pension, for the rest, you know. And it's gap between this different educational system, between different mindsets, and this situation, this crisis, unfortunately it's normal situation in all spheres of our social life, and the most painful is educational system.
It's very tiring, I think. This is quite tiring, discomforting.
Yeah, but the underwater problem with university teachers, and I sometimes I think that there is a correlation between level of competences and flexibility
in mindset.
Yes, in mindset.
Completely agree.
Yeah, our professors, our associated professors, it's much easier to change mindset of practical secondary teacher, which are facing up every day with new challenges. They need to do something, and like fire in the fire, living in the fire. They need to do something. They need to change their mindset because they experience this awful situation with our pupils. I mean, our children. It's a separate thing. Okay, but therefore, as a head of Competence Development Center of Higher Education Teachers, in paper, I'd like to be this director, not in practice, but it's very difficult. We're trying to apply for British Council program Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And at our university, it's a huge problem to find three at least understanding English educators and higher and top manager speaking English and willing to change to improve the teaching and learning process skills. I'm awfully sorry. Excuse me, colleagues, but it's very painful problem for me. It's actual for these 2 days. We can apply for this to participate in this program, but it's
difficult to find
almost impossible for us to be a part of this process.
I think that in Italy we have two main problems. The first one is linked to the continuous and rapid changes in norms and rules about teachers training in schools. So we have undergone, you have seen 4 or 5 different models during the last 20 years. And this is very tiring for people working on that, because every year or almost every year you have a change. So we're now getting accustomed to this kind of 24 ECTS system that is anyway 24 ECTS, you can understand, is not so much. Mm-hmm. So we can ask ourselves if it can be effective. And the other problem is that I completely agree with you, is that university teachers maybe are not ready. Sometimes are not ready yet to convey this kind of training that is not made up of disciplinary competencies, but is made up of a different mindset, which comprises citizenship competencies, inclusion, pedagogical competencies, and psychological competencies, which are linked, for example, to all the affective and emotional aspects in learning and teaching, enhancing interaction with the students and among the students, and so on and so forth. It is not enough to master your own discipline. You have to have other skills, and this is very difficult for us because in Italy our university career is mainly based, or basically based, on research.
Research, only research. Mm-hmm.
Mainly based on research. So you can even be I mean, not so interested in teaching to become a university teacher in Italy, and you can succeed. And this is a major problem for us. This is a great debate in Italy now, how to include in not just in a formal way, but in a meaningful way, the teaching experience and the teachers training, initial training for university teachers inside our system. This is not compulsory, for example. Mm-hmm. I mean, teachers initial training is not compulsory, or it is compulsory depending on university. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can have a university where you have, for example, here it is not compulsory, but it is offered anyway to teachers. In other universities, not so frequent. So we are discussing this at the national level because we are all aware that in a certain way this is necessary. This will be more and more necessary in the future because society is changing and we have a social role, so we have to change. But it is difficult if it is not, I mean, formally and also from a substantial point of view, fully integrated inside the system. This is our major problem now. And I think that ministry has to solve it in some way, and maybe not to wait too much time. to solve
yes,
it.
but and it's a strange situation. Coming back to 3 missions of university. First mission is teaching and learning. Only the second mission is research, and third mission is social responsibility. No, in general. So, and it's a normal situation. It's really different situation to get knowledge as to be a researcher and to transfer knowledge and to inspire others. It's absolutely, sometimes, hopefully,
they go together.
It could be connected in one personality. But as I can see, it's really, it's a global problem, it's international problem.
We here in Genoa, we have started some years ago, and I think that now it's spreading in some way. After 5 years of workshops and communities of practice and seminars and so on, people are getting interested. And this is quite important to me, because we have worked a lot on a project during the last years. We have also worked a lot on a project for study programs. So entire study programs that want to change something in their methodological aspects, that can be can ask and participate in a call, can apply for support, and then we have a university teaching and learning center that can support people in changing the way that teachers work inside the same study program as a group. And this has been very useful to us, because you can create little communities that can share their best practices and their problems too, that have a disciplinary homogeneous profile. And it works if there are some people that really engage in this kind of process, it can work quite well.
In your university, I mean in Genoa University, or it's a normal practice for mostly all Italian universities?
It depends. It depends on the universities. Here in Genoa, we have started this 3 years ago at a study program level. I mean,
is it supported by administration? Is it on voluntary base? It's just like non-government organization or not? Legally institutionalized or not? Just like
it is institutionalized. It is recognized by our university by now. But I can tell you that the ministry is moving towards an enhancement of this kind of actions inside all universities in Italy, because every year
to support this initiative, to transfer, to spread this best practice to all universities.
Yes. This is the way they are going now.
What's the name of this community?
Here in Genoa, we have a group which is called GLIA. You can find it on the internet, and we have a structure which is called Unige Teaching and Learning Center. So we have a teaching and learning center here that works on the initial and the lifelong training for university teachers since last year in an institutional way, in an official way, I mean. And we have a methodological tutors helping teachers to
outside of university.
Inside university. This is a center inside our university.
No. I mean tutors, mentors, and tutors.
Okay, it depends. Some of them, they work for our university.
Do you change educational programs according to this best practice, or are you changing accreditation system or rating of educators, including?
By now, it does not impact on By now, it does not impact at the national level on accreditation. Even if the ministry has, we were talking about requisites yesterday. there's one requisite talking about the didactic and pedagogical competencies of teachers, of faculty inside the university. So we begin to evaluate that at a national level. It's not so important. I mean, it's not so relevant for the entire accreditation, but the ministry has begun to ask universities if they work on this point, and I think this is quite a good change.
And do you know other universities outside Italy, other European universities with the same best practice, with the same approach to establishing? You know, in management, that was the principle of domain, cycles of quality cycles.
Yes.
Total quality management, they started from, in Japan, US practice of this domain cycles of constant enhancing quality circles, just a community of members which are willing to improve their activity, to improve their skills. And this system of circles, after enough quality of the circles, the system has been changed by these circle systems. I think that the same way could be in our educational environment, in the educational dimension, because it's similar to find these strong communities with beliefs and hard willing to change. And I'm optimist, and maybe
in some other
steps.
European countries, for example, in the UK, they have, and also in the Netherlands, if I'm not wrong, they have some national systems of, accreditation for didactic competencies for university teachers. So if you want to teach at university, you must have a certain level inside the framework. And this we have seen in the UK and also in the Netherlands. And there are some compulsory, training that you must take before becoming a university teacher, or just at the beginning of your career, because at the beginning of your career, you don't know how to teach. You're never evaluated on this. So during the last 5 years, we have organized some, and I can give you and I can send Diana the references if you are interested in, because there are some models in France too. I think that they're going towards an enhancement in this kind of projects. I will send Diana some references if you agree. And we can also exchange after this meeting if you're interested, because
I will write you in the chat my email and my messenger's data, because it's a good idea for capacity building project for Erasmus, because your university and at least another one European university with the same approach, we can launch this program, because at least 3 universities here already.
Okay, no, but here we have a delegate for pedagogical innovation, so I think that
pedagogical innovation.
We're willing to work on that.
And competencies of higher education teacher development. It's very actual problem. For Ukraine, it's a huge problem.
It's a crucial problem, I think, in Europe in general, because we have a change in paradigm. This is quite in social paradigm, and we have to adapt in a certain way, I think. So we have to change something in our mindset.
Sure. And we are in open society, and this open society is not friendly to higher education at all. We need to do something. I mean, universities, we have to join and to change our mindsets, and coming back to the beginning, to be friendly, open to society, and really student oriented, not informal, not in trying to give some likes and to populism, but no, we
in a
have to do
meaningful way.
something.
Yes, I completely agree. It's maybe it's more it's more difficult, but it's the only way, I think. No.
But where's the next secondary teachers already?
They already began. Yes, they have understood it. Before. I think so. Right.
Okay. Sorry. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thanks to
I
you.
will write you and here my details.
Okay. So I'm going maybe to finish some reflections, and then we can have some more debate. Another important point is that during these courses, we take into account the differentiation of the students' audience. This is important at the university level too, taking into account the differences in needs. So students with particular needs, particular pedagogical needs, and so on. And the development, and this is another good point in this kind of training, and this is a new point as far as the university system in Italy was organized and is still in a certain way organized. That is to say, the development of interdisciplinary skills. For example, projects such as CLIL training in recent years, so working on different skills belonging to different disciplinary areas. This is an important point in this kind of training, and we're working on that also in university teachers training and our communities of practice. We're trying to mix. We're trying to make people belonging to different areas meet and work together. And then the increase of international mobility. So for this kind of teachers too, the importance to work on mobility and to work on intercultural competencies. And this is another problem for our school teachers. There are some weak points, or maybe some more questions that have to be answered still. The first one is that this kind of system that we have in Italy now, in a certain way, is funded, is based on the fact that you can become a teacher primarily through the acquisition of university credits. And if a university is not prepared to deliver a different kind of training for teachers, this can be not so useful for the school teachers training, because university is still in Italy burdened by a fragmentation of knowledge. We are linked, we are bound to our scientific disciplinary sector. And so it is very difficult for us to work on, as we were saying before, during this kind of question-answer time. This is very difficult for us because we are bound to our sector. We are bound to work on our sector from the cradle to the grave. And if you work on interdisciplinary or transversal skills, your research is not so based on your sector, and it is not so useful for your career. So we have a bias. We are asked to work on transversal skills, citizenship skills, and so on and so forth. But our university career is still based on a fragmentation of knowledge. I know that in Italy, the ministry is working on the organization of scientific disciplinary sectors, which will take a lot of time. So we don't know how it will be in a different way, in a more interdisciplinary way. But by now we are still defined by a very close and a very limited disciplinary sector. So this is the first question that we could ask ourselves: how can university teachers prepare school teachers on something that is not a part of their knowledge baggage? And a second question, that it is important to verify is the difficulty and what is the difficulty in the expected contents and the learning outcomes of the modules offered by universities, and to which extent these university modules are co-designed with the school world. This is another major problem, because the risk is that this kind of modules could be oriented on disciplinary competencies, disciplinary knowledge, and not on skills. And the only way would be to co-design these kind of modules with the school world. But here in Italy, we are also, we have a system that most of the time allows us to work rapidly. And without having the time to co-design with the school teachers. So another point of weakness in this kind of model could be that one. And finally, there are a lot of problems that are linked to the training model itself, and the possibilities for the university system, which is already burdened by other issues, for example, the criticalities of the system, the effects of the Bologna process, to have the necessary resources to offer sustainable and meaningful initial training. Because most of the times these 24 CFU ECTS are something that is added to our workload. And our workload as university teachers is already, I mean, sometimes is already unsustainable. So this is another major problem, but because we have a consolidated experience during the last 20 years, and this experience is a heritage which could be more efficiently exploited. I think that the major problem is how to fully integrate the initial training of teachers and this kind of competencies inside the first level, the second level of training. So the first degree, the master degree, and then an eventual additional training inside pedagogy at university, and not as something that is added, but as something that it is fully integrated. So this is maybe the major problem that we can in a certain way formulate if we analyze the actual system. Okay, so I think I'm finished. And some words about maybe if you're interested, I will take questions first if you have some questions, and then some words about the Teaching and Learning Center if you're interested in. And
yes, please, if possible, about Teaching and Learning Center at the university.
Okay. I have a presentation in Italian, but I will talk about it in English. So just to show you some main points about our university teachers training. I'm going to share my screen.
Elena, could you please correct me and to say to Michaela a few words about this, our national framework, teaching excellence frame, because I was too pessimistic and focused on our university problems. Sorry, do not transfer this experience onto the whole country. It's my black view today.
You want me to speak about teacher training?
This initiative, no, a British Council approach. I just thought that we could not apply for this.
Yeah, okay. I tried to be brief. The project was launched last year, and it will. It is a 3-year project, and it will cover 30 universities. The idea is, so the project is called the Teaching Excellence Program for Ukraine, And the idea is that there will be 3 phases, 3 calls, and during each call 10 universities will be selected, each with the program on improving teaching and learning processes in the university. The first round I took part in it really actively as a trainer and as a facilitator working with groups, and it was pretty successful. 10 Ukrainian universities have really demonstrated, first of all, interest, compassion, and commitment to reform teaching and learning practices on the one hand, and also they have demonstrated competences because it was in the COVID, the first COVID area, and the project was totally delivered in online format. So these digital skills, digital competences were really important. And I was personally surprised that our Ukrainian teachers have demonstrated really good skills in digital competences. And also this commitment to my of course, we're not speaking about this sector in general, but these 10 universities who were the participants, they demonstrated commitment. There were a lot of sessions. They spent a lot of time. We worked in teams, thematic teams, and through these thematic teams, quite a lot of materials was generated available for all, for the whole higher education sector. So what I can conclude from this program, that there is an interest in the Ukrainian higher education sector, higher education community to improve teaching and learning, to adapt, in this case, UK experience to our national needs, and to improve, to excel, to demonstrate to inside the universities and to the colleagues on the national level what can be changed for the better. So my view of what we have is rather optimistic.
Okay, so maybe the truth is in
too, because second wave, and this project is now is opening the second wave of this and second possibility to participate in this project. So I'm dreaming about it.
But it's true that some changes must be supported at the national level, I think, and at a normative level too, because this kind of experiences can give directions and share good experiences and good practices and so on. And then if you want to generate a global change, maybe a political aspect is involved too. And this is the second step, maybe.
My another question was, excuse me, colleagues, I will try to be short. System and financing of universities. Now in Ukraine, Oleana, correct me please if I'm wrong, we need to change our system of our budgeting, our financial motivation system, and pragmatical purpose of our Erasmus capacity building project was to prepare our universities to implement best European practice of this value-based management based on quality of teaching and learning, based on this needs, international needs. So we'd like to apply not only to deep our research in values area, but to prepare our own university, our own universities to change their their financial motivational system. We will have to do this. What's the situation in Italian higher education system? What is the situation in your University of Genoa? It's a personal, intimate question. Will be confident, but could you please share your salary, your grade as educators? Does it depend on this teaching and learning skills or students' feedback? Are you a good teacher or not? Personality, personal, not skills, but moral and ethical and behavioral, if you know what I mean. So, because when we are assessing, again, turning to business experience, you cannot, your salary in business sphere, salary or grade in corporate financial management system depends on professional skills, managerial skills, competencies, and personal competencies. Reliable, trustworthy, ethical, friendly, team members. No, you know.
There are different levels, I think, that because at the national level, when in Italy by now, when you are evaluated to become a university teacher, your teaching experience is in a certain way evaluated and recognized. It depends on quantity, and it begins to depend on quality too. But it's quite a slow process, I think. Some years ago, for example, to become a university teacher, professor, you had to pass pedagogical exam. So you had to simulate a university lesson, and you were evaluated on that. This is not always like that now. So we're going maybe to reintroduce some element at the national level. At a local level, the universities can provide, for example, funds or grants for some kind of activities. And here, for example, people working as I was talking yesterday, people working as responsible for quality assurance in departments can have some more options in annual grants, for example. And the same for the coordinators or the responsibles of the study programs. So there are some points where the system is trying to accelerate and integrate this kind of competencies at the national level, but above all, we're working hard at a local level. So some initiatives, I think, that are present anyway. The main problem is that at the national level, our career has been based for a long time on our research results. So that there's a disproportion between
science,
yes, you can be a very good researcher and scholar, and the pedagogical aspects were not so taken into account. And the same for the management skills or participation in management and so on. I think it's going to change. I think it will take some more time to be equilibrated. I mean.
Thank you.
This is my personal point of view, of course.
Sure, we can only share our.
But it's my sensibility. Okay. So I will tell you some words about the Teaching and Learning Center if you're interested in, since our time is going to finish. Here we have, as you can see in the slide, we have a teaching and learning center for the whole university. And this teaching and learning center is a sort of umbrella under which we have other committees or work groups that work together.
Technologies, innovations, didactic innovations. Yeah.
Yes, yes. We have a committee for didactic innovation inside our university that is formed by representatives of teachers in each school of each area of our university. And this is a sort of organizational committee, organizes projects, activities and services to enhance our didactic quality. Then we have a work group which is called GLIA, and this group is working on faculty development. This is an important initiative because this kind of group organizes seminars, workshops on methodologies.
Exchanging between faculties, exchanging knowledge between faculties, interfaculty events.
Yes, it's formed by some 20 people coming from different departments of the whole university, and we organize these courses and workshops for the whole faculty. So all the professors and the participants can come and share their experiences and so on. We have inside this system, we have different communities of practice that can be organized at a departmental level or at a school level or at other levels, possible levels, working on the exchange of good practices. And then we have an administrative sector which is supporting this kind of initiatives. And then we have this last team for didactic innovation inside our university, who is formed by people belonging to our administration, but who have particular profile, a psychopedagogical profile, which is very tailored on pedagogical innovation. So they are specialists, they are experts in pedagogical innovation. And normally they act as tutors for our teachers who want to change their own pedagogical practices. They are supported by an expert in pedagogical innovation that, and they co-design the main changes at a single teacher's level or at a study program level. We have remarked that the study program level can be more effective. If you want a real change, many people collaborating together, this could be more effective. This is how the system is organized, and we have been working on this system now for 5 years, more or less. This system is a local system that is linked to a national network working on the pedagogical competencies of university teachers. So we are part of a network, an Italian network, working on that and trying to exchange good practices, to share our critical issues, and also to have a political impact on ministry, on the national rules, and so on and so forth.
What's the name of this organization, of this national framework?
This national association is called ASDUNI.
ASDUNI.
I will send maybe Diana, and we have some national interest groups working on this kind of issues. Teachers coming from different parts of Italy. This is an association, a voluntary association, so people can apply and become part of this association. And national interest groups have been formed, which meet once a month, working on pedagogical competencies, enhancement and recognition of this kind of competencies, evaluation of the impact of pedagogical innovation, and so on. So this is quite some ideas of, on how the local system is organized. So we have a working group for teachers who was born in 2016. We have some mentoring projects, sharing experiences, and normally, basically, the idea of forming a community. Some 20 people, as I was saying before, participate in the initiatives of this kind of group, which is in charge of the faculty development for our university. And this is placed under this umbrella, as I was saying before, of this structure, which is called the Teaching and Learning Center. I will go briefly because we have not enough time, but okay, I just give you a photograph of the situation by now. And if you're interested in, I will ask also to our faculty development delegate, which is who is a colleague, to maybe to send you some materials.
We'll be very grateful. Thank you very much. Olena wants to ask.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask about the courses for teachers in your university. Are they obligatory courses for teachers at the entry when they come to become university teachers? And also during the career advancement, are there, for instance, if you want to come from associate professor to the level of professor, are there courses that in teaching and learning, I mean, courses in teaching and learning that a teacher should take before going to the upper level?
Okay, not yet. The answer is not yet. At the national level, there are different experiences. Some universities make this kind of training compulsory at the beginning of the career, but it is not a national rule. And for us, by now, it is completely voluntary. I say by now because we have, I mean, we are discussing about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia, too. For the link, unfortunately, it's in Italian. I have to improve my Italian language.
No, but this is a major problem for us, translation of our documents in English, because
sometimes
some web pages should be translated.
Yes, and titles, virtual conference, special interest groups.
Yes. This is what I was talking about before. This is a very interesting experience for us because we meet people coming from Italy, from everywhere in Italy, and we share interesting experiences. For example, one of our colleagues from Sicily told us that they have a very interesting mentoring project at the university level. They make mentoring experiences, so people go and make an observation of the courses, and then they have an exchange with the teachers to understand and to focus on the good points and the weak points of the lessons and so on. This is, for example, a good point that we found during this kind of meetings.
And do you know, as the international, maybe as the as DUNI is a member of international organization or not?
I don't know. This I don't know. I can ask, and then I can tell you if you're interested in. Please send to Diana the contact with Fabrizio Bracco, who is the delegate of director now for innovation in didactic. Maybe.
Oh, it's lovely. Faculty development. I love this combination. Faculty development, university communities development. It's a good direction. Thank you very much, dear Michaela.
Thank you.
Okay, can I also ask another question, please?
Yes.
Michaela, thank you very much. It is really interesting. And we will have the last day when we will have the opportunity to share all our ideas and emotions. I think I will have the opportunity to speak more about my impressions and how interesting it is. But now my question is about the projects. You mentioned you have so many projects with different purposes. And probably some of these projects are funded from the European structural funds, but definitely some of the projects are funded by the national government or regional government or universities as well. Can you dwell a little bit on this? Among all these different projects, what is the proportion funded by university or government or EU?
Okay. The project for the initial training are mainly funded by government normally. So PCTO, for example, or PLS or POT, they are developed inside the ministry, and the ministry makes a call every year, and we participate. We make networks of universities, and we participate. We apply for funds, and we are funded by our ministry. National ministry. As far as the 24 ECTS are concerned, they are compulsory normally. So we are charged for that by the ministry. And as far as our own system is concerned, so the Teaching and Learning Center, for example, this is partly financed by our university, and partly we can apply for funding by the ministry, by the national ministry. By now, we never attempted for European projects, but I think that maybe there's room for that. But by now, it has been basically local funding and partially, very partially, ministry funding on the basis of calls, annual calls.
Thank you.
Thanks to you. Grazie a voi. Diana, non so se vogliamo lasciarli andare a pranzo.
No, devono ascoltare ancora un intervento.